TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasizes that the Golan Heights will always remain under Israeli sovereignty. Iranian Minister of Intelligence Mahmoud Alaviv warns that unless international sanctions are lifted, the Ayatollah regime may opt to develop a nuclear weapon. A United Nations report reveals Iran and North Korea cooperate on a number of intercontinental ballistic missile development projects. Israel will not be deterred by hypocritical and outrageous attempts to prevent it from protecting its citizens from any threat, responding to the International Criminal Court's recent ruling claiming jurisdiction to launch an investigation on alleged war crimes committed by Israel in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz asserted that no court, regardless of its location, will prevent Israel from protecting its citizens.
ישראל היא המדינה החזקה ביותר במזרח התיכון, ואנחנו לא נרתעים מניסיונות צבועים ומופרכים למנוע מאיתנו להגן על אזרחינו מול כל איום, ביהודה ושומרון, ברצועת עזה בסביבותיה, ובכל נקודה שבה משטרים עוינים מנסים לפגוע באזרחי מדינת ישראל. גם הפלסטינאים צריכים להבין שכדי לפתור את הסכסוך חייבים לחזור למשא ומתן, ולא יעזור בית דין, גם אם הוא בהאג.
Jerusalem's top defense official, who served as IDF Chief of General Staff during Israel's 2014 military campaign against the Islamist militias in Gaza, a conflict subject to one of the ICC's intended investigations, also emphasized Israeli Defense Forces' uncompromising determination to adhere to moral standards of military conduct dictated by international law.
היציבות והשקט היחסי ביהודה ושומרון הן תוצאה של פעילות מבצעית יומיומית, נחושה ומקצועית של מפקדי וחיילי צה"ל בגזרה. כמי ששירת פה משנים רבות, גם כמפקד חטיבה וגם כמפקד האוגדה, אני יודע היטב שהגזרה ידעה ימים של טרור קשה שגבה מחירים כואבים. מול אתגרי הטרור, צה"ל פועל תוך חתירה למגע ומסכל מאות פיגועים, ככה לילה אחרי לילה הוא מפגין יכולות מקצועיות ומקפיד על טוהר הנשק והדין הבינלאומי.
Defense Minister Gantz, who concluded a working visit of the IDF's Judea and Samaria division, went on to address the Palestinian leadership as well as Israeli politicians who will form the next Israeli government after the upcoming elections scheduled to be held in March.
לצד קידום הנורמליזציה שיכולה לסייע בכך, וגם בדחיפה של הממשל החדש, יש חלון הזדמנויות להגיע להתקדמות מדינית עם הפלסטינים. זו צריכה להיות משימה מרכזית של הממשלה הבאה, שמדינת ישראל תהיה מדינה בטוחה, דמוקרטית ויהודית. אנחנו נמשיך לשמור על אזרחי ישראל בכל הגבולות ובכל המקומות, ונמשיך לעבוד קודם כל עם עצמנו, אבל גם ביחד עם הממשל, להבטיח הרחבה של הסכמי השלום, הסכמי אברהם, ולקדם ככל האפשר הסכם מדיני עם הפלסטינים, וכמובן כדי להרחיב את ההישגים שלנו, כמו הכרה ברמת הגולן ועוד. אני מקווה מאוד ומאמין שההישגים האלה ילכו ויתרחשו גם בשנים הקרובות.
The last part of his remarks, in which Minister Gantz mentioned the Trump administration's decision on March 25, 2019, to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, was seemingly directed at the new administration in the United States. That after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in an interview to CNN's Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, stopped short from unveiling whether the Biden administration would move to ratify the previous administration's decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the strategic plateau. While Secretary Blinken acknowledged that within today's context, at a time of numerous threats emanating from war-torn Syria, the Golan Heights is very important to Israel's security. However, Washington's top diplomat affirmed, quote, "If the situation were to change in Syria, that is something we would look at."
טוב, הם אמרו שהם בוחנים את זה, אבל אני כבר בחנתי את זה. ומבחינתי, רמת הגולן תישאר תמיד חלק של מדינת ישראל, חלק ריבון. מה, אנחנו נחזיר אותה לסוריה, לתופת האיומה שיש שם, למלחמת האזרחים, לשפיכות הדמים?
Turning from the Golan Heights westward, where the IDF concluded a military exercise titled Lightning Storm, which was conducted in the northern command of the Israeli military along the border with Lebanon. According to the IDF spokesperson's unit, the exercise intended to improve the IDF troops' readiness, during which the military examined how to apply the lessons learned from operational activities that took place along the border with Lebanon last summer, and will prepare the troops for a variety of scenarios, including readiness for combat days. It further noted, quote, "The IDF will continue to prepare and improve its readiness along the border with Lebanon while carrying out the task of protecting the residents in the area." It is worth mentioning that the exercise came less than a week after IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi held a meeting with UNIFIL Force Commander Major General Stefano Del Col. During the meeting, the security situation in southern Lebanon was discussed. It included UNIFIL missions in the region in relation to the ongoing violations of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 by Lebanon's Iranian proxy Hezbollah and the lack of enforcement by the Lebanese armed forces. It also included complaints by the latter directed at Israel. Turning to the Islamic Republic of Iran, where the Iranian Minister of Intelligence, Mahmoud Alavi, warned that unless the international sanctions imposed on his country are lifted, the Ayatollah regime may opt to develop a nuclear weapon. In an interview to state-run television broadcast late Monday, the Ayatollah regime's top spy stressed, quote, "Our nuclear program is peaceful, and the fatwa by the supreme leader has forbidden nuclear weapons, but if they push Iran in that direction, then it wouldn't be Iran's fault, but those who pushed it." Minister Alavi further stressed, quote, "If a cat is cornered, it may show a kind of behavior that a free cat would not." Separately, the Iranian intelligence minister also mentioned that a member of Iran's military facilitated the assassination of the country's top nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in December. However, Minister Alavi stopped short from elaborating on this matter. Responding to Iran's top intelligence official on the nuclear remark, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said that while Washington took note, it could not yet confirm whether the warning was Tehran's official position.
Well, it's not yet clear to us that Mahmoud Alavi was speaking for anyone but himself. I would say that we, of course, took note of those remarks. They are very concerning. Would also note, and I referenced this yesterday as well, that Iran has an obligation under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, never, permanent prohibition to acquire nuclear weapons. And it reaffirmed that commitment under the JCPOA. I think that's where we leave our reaction.
The State Department spokesperson went on to respond about a question regarding a classified United Nations report which unveiled that Iran and North Korea cooperate on a number of intercontinental ballistic missile development projects. Per the report, quote, "This resumed cooperation between Iran and North Korea is said to have included the transfer of critical parts, with the most recent shipment associated with this relationship taking place in 2020.
Well, I don't think it really changes our strategic orientation to Iran. If the old adage is trust and verify, in this case it may be mistrust and verify. When it comes to this report, we've seen the press reporting, of course. We won't comment on a UN report that has not yet been published. But it is true that we continue to use a variety of non-proliferation tools to work to prevent the further advancement of Iran's missile program and its ability to proliferate this technology to others, including North Korea. And this includes working with our partners to stop specific shipments of equipment and technology to these programs, using our engagement in multilateral fora to raise awareness of Iran's missile activities, and to urge countries to take steps to address these activities, and finally imposing non-proliferation sanctions pursuant to our domestic authorities against entities supporting Iran's missile program. That's why we've also said that our goal is not only to have Iran come back into full compliance with the JCPOA, but then to use the JCPOA, which we would seek to, in the first instance, lengthen and strengthen as a platform for follow-on agreements to include other areas of Iran's malign activities, and that includes, of course, its ballistic missile program.
Despite Washington's repeated demands for a renegotiated nuclear deal that would cover wide-ranging malign activities by Tehran and its proxies, the Islamic Republic is adamant to reject any type of talks with the United States.
اما گفتگو و مذاکره درباره موشکی، درباره منطقه اینا هیچ جای گفتگو نیست. هیچ ملتی درباره قدرت دفاعی خودش با دیگری مذاکره نمیکنه که من اینو داشته باشم یا نداشته باشم. ما هم هرگز مذاکره نمیکنیم.
باید بایدن نه تنها که باید به برجام برگرده، باید کوتاهی‌ها و قصور در حقیقت ترامپ رو هم جبران بکنه. باید از مردم ایران اسلامی هم واقعا عذرخواهی بکنه، چون برجام یک توافق بین‌المللی است.
Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to lift up Yemen in prayer once again for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, and for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion and its numerous ramifications worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Tov U'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.